The judge's gavel struck the bench one final time, and in that single sound, Nathaniel Cross lost nearly everything he had spent 15 years building. His house, his savings, his company shares, and even most of the time he dreamed of spending with his little daughter disappeared behind legal documents and cold signatures. As he walked out of the courthouse carrying nothing but a worn backpack and a faded photograph of his 8-year-old daughter, strangers looked past him without knowing they were witnessing the darkest day of a good man's life. But none of them could have imagined that only a few weeks later, a gleaming super yacht waiting at a quiet private harbor would reveal a truth so unbelievable that it would leave an entire city speechless. Before we continue this unforgettable journey, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone who still believes in kindness and second chances, and subscribe to our channel, USA Enlightened Stories. Your support helps bring inspiring stories like this to more hearts around the world. The divorce had not only emptied Nathaniel's bank account, it had drained the light from his eyes. Every morning began before sunrise as he slept in the tiny storage room behind an old mechanic's garage owned by a longtime friend. The room was barely large enough for a folding bed and a small wooden chair. Yet Nathaniel never complained. He worked 12-hour shifts repairing engines with quiet determination, saving every dollar possible just so he could afford weekend visits with his daughter Willow. Those precious weekends became the only moments when life felt worth living. Together, they visited public parks, shared homemade sandwiches, and watched boats drifting along the distant harbor on bright blue afternoons. Willow often wondered aloud what it would be like to sail on one, and Nathaniel smiled, even though he knew he couldn't even afford 2 movie tickets. The hardest part was pretending everything was fine. He never allowed Willow to see the tears that filled his eyes after dropping her back home every Sunday evening. He refused to let bitterness poison the love he had for his child. Instead, he carried hope like a fragile candle, protecting it from every storm that life sent his way. The people around him admired his honesty and work ethic, but few understood the sacrifices hidden behind his gentle smile. Unknown to almost everyone, Nathaniel had once walked away from something extraordinary years before his marriage. As a young engineer, he had helped an elderly inventor solve a complicated marine engineering technology problem. The grateful inventor had insisted on giving Nathaniel a small percentage of ownership in a private international holding company. Believing the company would never become anything significant, Nathaniel signed the papers, placed them in an old envelope, and forgot they even existed. Life moved on. Marriage, fatherhood, bills, responsibilities, and eventually divorce bury that memory beneath years of ordinary struggles. Meanwhile, that tiny company quietly grew into one of the world's largest marine and shipbuilding investment groups. Mergers, patents, and global partnerships transformed it into a multi-billion-dollar enterprise. After the elderly founder passed away, lawyers began searching for every surviving shareholder. Most had already sold their stakes decades earlier. Only Nathaniel's forgotten ownership remained untouched. One bright Tuesday afternoon, while Nathaniel was replacing a damaged truck engine, several men wearing elegant business suits arrived at the garage. Everyone assumed they had come to complain about an expensive repair, but instead they politely asked for Nathaniel Cross. The garage suddenly became silent as they handed him an official envelope carrying the seal of an international law firm. Nathaniel stared at the papers, convinced there had been some terrible mistake. They respectfully explained that his ownership had grown into a fortune worth several $billion. He thought it was a cruel joke until they showed decades of legal records bearing his own signature. The following morning, a black luxury vehicle picked him up before sunrise and drove him to a private marina. Waiting there under the warm golden daylight stood a magnificent super yacht, its engines quietly humming against the gentle waves. Crew members, captains, lawyers, and executives greeted him with respect that felt completely unfamiliar. Only weeks earlier, he had been counting coins for groceries. Now he was being welcomed as one of the wealthiest shareholders in a global corporation. As the yacht eased away from the dock into the brilliant blue horizon, Nathaniel looked back at the city where he had experienced heartbreak, humiliation, and loneliness. He remembered every sleepless night, every missed meal, every painful goodbye with Willow. Tears slowly rolled down his face, not because he had become wealthy, but because he had survived long enough to see hope return. Money had not erased his pain, but it had proven that life could change when least expected. Instead of purchasing mansions and luxury cars, Nathaniel made a decision that surprised everyone. His first purchase was a modest family home surrounded by trees, complete with a small reading room that Willow had always dreamed about. His second investment created scholarships for children from struggling single-parent families. Then he established a foundation providing free legal assistance to fathers and mothers who could not afford representation during painful custody battles. Reporters praised his generosity, but Nathaniel insisted he was simply giving others the support he once desperately needed. Willow's life changed as well, but Nathaniel worked hard to keep her grounded. She continued attending the same school, volunteering at community centers, and learning that true wealth was measured by compassion instead of possessions. Every weekend, they still visited parks together, except now they sometimes watched the harbor from the deck of their own yacht instead of from a bench on the shore. Yet the happiest moments remain the simplest ones, sharing ice cream on sunny afternoons and laughing over silly board games at home. News of Nathaniel's incredible transformation spread across television, newspapers, and social media. Many people focused on the billions, but those who truly understood his story realized the greatest victory had nothing to do with money. His greatest achievement was refusing to let hardship turn him into someone filled with anger. Even after losing almost everything, he never abandoned kindness, dignity, or the unconditional love he carried for his daughter. If this story has touched your heart so far, please like this video, share it with your friends and family, leave your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to USA Enlightened Stories. Your support encourages us to continue sharing stories that remind the world that hope is never truly lost. Special request comment: kindness always wins. If you believe that good people may struggle for a season, but their faith, patience, and love will eventually be rewarded. As the sun set one peaceful evening, Nathaniel and Willow stood together on the deck of their yacht, watching the horizon glow orange over the calm water. Months earlier, yachts had represented impossible dreams beyond their reach. Now they represented something far greater than wealth. They symbolized hope, unexpected blessings, and a reminder that no matter how dark life becomes, tomorrow may carry the miracle you never saw coming. Sometimes the world takes everything away, not to punish a good heart, but to prepare it for a future greater than it ever dared to imagine. And in the end, the richest man was never the one who owned billions. It was the father who never stopped believing that love, kindness, and perseverance would one day bring him home.